Welcome to another episode of the Business of Coaching podcast, where we unpack the strategies, mindset shifts, and real-world tactics to help coaches and entrepreneurs level up their game. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Scott Carpenter, a powerhouse in the fitness industry who's gone from a struggling personal trainer to a six-time gym owner, as I understand, with multi-million-dollar facilities, multiple million-dollar facilities, and specializes in high-ticket transformation expertise. Scott helps gym owners and trainers ditch the low-pay grind and scale their businesses with premium programs that deliver massive value and profitability. I'm excited to introduce Scott or have you on the program because, as I've talked about many times, the two most common questions that we get from coaches after they've set up their operating system in Turnkey Coach is, how much should I charge and how do I get more clients? Which I think those are sort of integrated. But after meeting you at the Business of Strength Summit last month, was it already? Just barely last month, almost 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I was really, you gave a presentation on sort of a different topic, but afterwards we were catching up and talking about your expertise in pricing strategies. And I just couldn't wait to get you on the podcast because I think you have some really powerful ideas and strategies to help coaches break out of the race to the bottom of pricing, especially in a market now today where online coaching in particular is arguably saturated, and even gyms in the local town are starting to pop up like Starbucks on every corner. And so people are constantly trying to figure out how much should I charge, and being, afraid to charge too much or charge too little, and all the implications with lifestyle and work-wife balance that come along when you're trying to make those trade-offs. So welcome to the show, and excited to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you hit the nail on the head. A lot of times it is a race to the bottom. And what should I charge? Well, what does this guy charge? Well, let me come in a little under that. What does this guy charge? Let me come a little under that. And it is a race to the bottom quite often. And we get scared because acquisition's tough. And you get somebody on the line and you're like, man, I got to get this person across. And we end up devaluing our services to the point where we're working harder and harder for less and less. And I'm guilty of all this stuff. I've had gyms for 13 years, sold this stuff online, and it's a tough trap to get into to figure out how to make this thing work. And I made all the mistakes, and I've been lucky enough to make it through and get out the other side. So I love teaching and sharing this stuff.
Yeah, I know you've got a presentation that I think would be good to jump into, but before we do that, can you give us just sort of your elevator pitch of why does Scott Carpenter have an opinion we care about? What were all the growing pains that you went through? You have an amazing story, and I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on.
Oh, absolutely. I have made so many mistakes in life financially, and it was with a previous career. I just did everything wrong. I've always wanted to make a lot of money, and I went about it all wrong. And I destroyed my financial future by making a series of mistakes and trying to get into real estate too soon and not knowing what to do. And I messed all that up, destroyed my credit, had to start over, nearly got fired from my corporate job. Fitness was my saving grace. It was the one thing that I looked forward to every day during that dark time. And that's when I made the shift I started as a personal trainer. And fitness was the only good thing in my life. And I changed dramatically because of it, wanted to help other people. But then I got caught in that race, right? I started as a trainer. And when I started my own company, I bought a failing gym. I was just doing what they did. They had group at $99 to $149 a month.
If I remember correctly, you moved across country and set this new gym up in a new town.
Yeah, well, I moved from Illinois to Arizona. I just ran away from my previous life, and I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from foreclosures, and then I started not at zero, less than zero, and had to dig out of it. And I started as a personal trainer, got promoted to an assistant manager, then I ran the department. I finally cleared up all my debt, which took years. And what I wanted to do, though, like a lot of us that are listening on here, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to have the freedom to create my vision and hopefully build a life where I can work on my own time and do what I love to do. And that's a whole nother set of problems. We get into this with such great hopes, and then we find out, holy cow, this is hard.
Hmm.
And so it took me many years to figure out how to create a profitable business that I wasn't working 50, 60, 70 plus hours a week.
And so worked your way up to a point where you could then buy into your first gym.
I bought a failing gym is what it was.
Okay.
And that failing gym, it had $600 a month worth of clients. That's about it. That's about all I inherited. And I took a shot. I had very little savings. I put $5,000 down and took seller financing on the rest. And yeah, I mean, they were doing $100 a month or $100 for 10 visit punch cards, physical punch cards.
So total top line revenue was $600 a month.
Yeah.
What was rent for the space?
Rent for the space at that time, I think was around $3,000. So I just cleared out all my debt. And then I was actually making good money there then, like maybe around like 90-ish grand a year.
Okay.
Hustling like crazy. And then I just said, no, I'm quitting.
Wow.
Which was insane.
Yeah.
And I inherited a business that was losing money.
Yeah.
And had to go from there. But the good news is I had that PT background.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to, I had
Knew
a
the
heads up
operations.
and actually charge
Yeah.
decent rates instead of the large group stuff or the small group where we're just devaluing and charging very little.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an advantage I had when going into it.
And then your life became the gym. I remember from your presentation,
yeah.
that was your quality time, even with your son was at the gym and everything was the gym.
Everything was the gym. You look
Yeah.
when I had my son, a 1-year-old, trying to start a family, all that kind of stuff. And then a series of bad things happened, and there I am working 60. This time I had multiple locations, but I had 2 locations that really had some bad stuff happen to it. And I'm in there working 78 hours a week. The first 2 years of my son's life, you're only going to see pictures of me either in my business's shirt or in my gym because I didn't have a life outside of that. And because I've been through such hard and dark times, and again, I got lucky to get exposed to high ticket pricing and learn those methods, learn how to sell and fulfill and renew them. It really changed my life in a big way. And I feel very fortunate. So a lot of what I do now, I still have my gyms, but most of my time is spent teaching other gym owners and other online coaches how to charge their true worth so that they actually can make a good living.
So you mentioned what was, I'm guessing, I don't know where the rock bottom was. Maybe there were multiple rock bottoms, but there was the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, leave the whole life behind, move cross country bottom. And then was there another rock bottom or maybe just like it was aha moment that shifted? Like what prompted you to change gears, or were you evolving that high ticket pricing from day one? Or was there like a big switch that you made?
There was a big switch.
Okay.
And a lot of it was when I looked around and I looked at it like, we did large group previously and we've done semi but you get stuck in commodity pricing with the competitors. And there's this aha moment where I realized there are certain online coaches that are charging, $3-8 grand for short term. We're talking like 8 to 12 week programs online. And I'm just like, okay, how are they charging that totally online? And then in brick and mortar, we're charging relative peanuts to it,
Right.
and what's going on? So I dove in there. I spent an obscene amount of money with coaches to learn how to do that. And what I did initially was I took aspects of that and evolved it for the brick and mortar gyms and implemented in my gyms. And then what I did is that branched out online as well, because that's where it came from. And so, I learned these skill sets, applied them, fine-tuned them over a period of years. And what it allows me to do is like, man, if we only pick up 2, 3, 4 clients this month, we're doing all right. Because volume is tough. Since COVID, volume acquisition is so much harder. And as you mentioned, how many people are we competing with now? Not to mention GLP-1s and Reddit-to-Tried and all that, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of competition. And to make matters worse with the internet, shoot, workouts are free, man.
Yep.
You could go to Google, YouTube, and get your entire program for $0.
Right.
And you got to realize that people don't need the workouts. That's not what they really want and want to do. And that's not what's going to solve their problem. And so that's really the catalyst. It's like, I need to get to what they're actually trying to solve, supply and talk about that as my solution to it. And that problem is worth a lot more money to solve than workouts are.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So I know you've got a presentation prepared. Before I take over this whole interview, just kind of selfishly ask more questions. Maybe we would turn it over to you for a bit. And also a reminder to anybody that's listening in live, if you have questions, please drop them into the chat in whatever platform you're on, and we will get those addressed as best we can live, or Scott's got some offers here that might be more able to customize it more for you. But please do drop your questions or comments in at any point.
Yeah, and a lot of you are probably listening to this on the podcast, and so I'm going to show some models and stuff. So if you can find the live video that you guys have, the recording, it's a great companion to this if you like this stuff. But, you know, kind of how we were talking about earlier is we're all our own bosses because we want to achieve some level of freedom. And that's twofold. It's not just with the money. That's necessary, but it is also with our time, right? Nobody wants to be working 70 to 80 hours a week, right? And being your own boss, it gives you the freedom to do this kind of stuff. But like we talked about, acquisition is harder than it ever has been. If I'm a potential client, I can go anywhere. And so it's hard enough to get the attention, but you need to differentiate yourself in some type of way. And the days where you can just, if you're the first on Instagram, yeah, you're getting to 1 million followers, right? If you're looking at this now, it is noisy out there. It is noisy, and it's not viable for all of us to have 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers for a volume gain. And so the good news is that more clients is not always the answer. And I'll give you Taryn, for example. She was a gym owner, and her place was pretty packed, but again, commodity pricing. She could only charge so much for workouts. Well, when she learned how to charge more for her services on a different level, things dramatically changed for her. You can see right here, she sold a $6,000 executive offer. That's a 9-week program for her, by the way. And she even broke that record. She raised her executive program to $8,000. And she signed up this man's wife about 3-4 weeks later for her standard $4,000 high ticket offer. And within the 9 weeks, they had renewed and agreed to do it for a whole year. And she brought in $90,000 in year 1 from just 2 clients. And that is massive. But guys, the money's one thing, but what it allows you to do, it allows you to vacation. It allows you to get outside and exercise and hike and go to Sedona and all those fun things. That's what it's really about. It's about quality time that your money can buy you back with, as is working with less clients. A lot of clients takes up time. Fewer, higher paying clients stay longer. They're happy to spend the money. They take a lot less time. And you have to worry about a lot less retention. And so if you want to grow your business, I mean, there's 3 main profit levers, right? You can get more clients, you can keep them longer, or you can charge more. And you want to do a combination of all 3, right? But we're going to focus on 2 and 3, particularly how to charge more. But again, you can't just do what you're doing and double your prices. People are only going to pay so much for workouts in a nutrition program, right? But I'm going to highlight that different people want different things. And this is the root. You have to figure out what these people want. And that's the root of it. They want different things. So take this lesson from Mercedes-Benz, okay? We all know Mercedes-Benz, right? And if you want one, you can get there. Some people are going to want to just get a Mercedes, and they're going to get the entry level. You can get an entry level GLA for $42,000, right? Some people just want the lowest priced item, okay? But most of their cars are going to sell in the 70s. You get more space, bigger engine, more nicely appointed. You get the better audio system. Most of them are going to be there. That's like a mid-ticket price, right? And there's also going to be people who want the best. That's the G-Wagon clients, right? Those things start at $220,000. They sell above MSRP. There's a waiting list to get these guys. These will be out the door for like 280,000. And you'd be like, that's insane. Who would pay that? There are a lot of people who pay that. In fact, I've got a client who's been a client of mine for 10 years, Patrick. He gets a new G-Wagon every 3 years. There's no haggling on price. That is a $280,000 G-Wagon is far easier to sell than a $42,000 SUV where you're going to haggle and negotiate. Because you have somebody who values something differently, right? And the point is you can't just raise your prices across all the board for everybody. You need to figure out what client is in front of you and what they want. And you need to have a higher ticket offer for the people who are happy to pay you more for more value. That's the lesson. And you'll see high ticket everywhere. You see it with guitars. So Fender, you can buy a Squire for $160. Most are going to sell for like $500 to $800, but then they'll have $3,000 ones. And in fact, you can buy custom ones for $25,000. Point is yes, people value things differently. And I want to challenge you. Everybody listening here is a lot of you have limiting beliefs on what you're worth. You're thinking of your services as a commodity. And I want to challenge you and teach you how to think differently. You are more than someone who just builds workout nutrition programs, okay? And if you want to make more money, solve bigger problems. Most of us know who Tim Grover is, right? That's Michael Jordan's trainer. Now, if he's just going to Michael Jordan saying, yeah, I'm going to, build you some workouts and do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be better. That's an okay sales pitch, but that's not what he's selling. It's the end result that people want. No, not many people want to work out. They want the benefits of working out. And what is Tim's pitch to Michael Jordan, to Kobe Bryant, to all these people that he's worked with? I'm gonna help you become the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Is Michael Jordan willing to pay more for that? I mean, it's Michael Jordan, of course. But pro athletes have a strong desire to be the best. That's what your program needs to convey. And once I stopped selling sessions and starting solutions, it all changed. And that's when, like, my new business months, there's an example here for those watching the video where I've got a group of guys that were running my studios, and we started bringing in like $27,000 in new business from just a handful of people and upwards. It really scaled really, really well. And I went from sleepless nights and like, am I going to have enough this month? Am I going to get those 3 people I need, right? Or, well, before it was more. Am I going to get the 15 people I need? Or am I okay doing 2 or 3? And I went from those anxiety nights as, am I going to have enough this month, this quarter, this year, to sleeping like a baby. And I did that with a 3-tier high ticket pricing strategy. So we have a low, mid, and a high. And I want you to have them all because there are some people who can't afford $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, and that's okay. I'm not telling you to go big or go home. And so a 3-tiered pricing model, you have your high ticket. Now, for a lot of you, this might be a 8 to 12-week program, okay? There are different ways to build these out. So I'll kind of show some nuances, but I also have something for you if you want my help to build out your offers at the end of it. You can get some time with me. But, this is you're selling that big solution. This is for somebody who has a strong pain or desire to change. If you don't have that, it might not be for you. But this is where you're doing the workouts, you're doing the nutrition program, but it's a mentorship. At the end of the day, guys, diets don't work for people. They'll work for a very short period of time while you're motivated, and then they stop. And at the end of the day, people need more than that. It's taking them by the hand to help build it into their lives so they not just get the results, but they sustain them. If it's an athlete, that strong pain or desire might be to get more playing time or make varsity or get that D1 scholarship, right? That could be it. That's a big problem to solve. You can command $2,000, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 for something like that. Now, some people do need a lot of the help, but it's not that big of a pain or desire. That's where your mid-ticket comes in. Maybe you got a $599 to $1499 offer for something like that. And maybe some people just want the programming. They just want somebody to build their workouts and oversee their nutrition or something. Great. That's your low ticket one. That's probably what you're currently doing, right? But quite often we're over delivering in the low ticket and we're not charging higher prices for it. So your low ticket should be a stripped down version. So for those of you who are online, a high ticket, I like a high ticket of a high ticket for your G-Wagon clients, like an executive program. And in many cases, I advise people to you can drop ship 2 meals a day, 6 days a week to their house to eliminate a lot. Because some people, they're busy executives, they're professionals. You got to go to the store and you got to find it, bring it home, think of all your meals, cook it, prepare it, clean up everything, portion it away. They don't have time for that. They don't want that. You can use Icon Meals, set up a wholesale account, and drop ship it to them, right? But the main thing is your mentorship where you're taking them by the hand. That's extremely valuable. And the platform you guys have with Turnkey Coach is second to none on that stuff. That is extremely impressive. Your competitors do not have that. And when you can show this is what you like, especially if you're working with athletes or things like that, it's unbelievable. And so your higher mid-ticket can really incorporate those advanced features in Turnkey Coach to do an amazing job, right? And so you might have a high ticket that's, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. You might have a step down mid-ticket and you can mess with duration. For online coaches, sometimes I do a high, mid, and low, depending on how their business is, and it's the same deliverables. We just are doing a 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month. So there's different ways it can be built, but your low ticket is your basics. And all the extra value you bring to the table, you can charge a lot more for it. And just wait to see who's in front of you. So as I mentioned, the G-Wagon clients, those are the people that you can drop ship food to them, or maybe it includes supplements, maybe it includes their labs, or you partner with somebody who does hormones, right? A lot of different ways you can build these things out, and your business is your business. So they're all built a little bit different. But what exactly is that high ticket offer? Like I said, most people don't want to work out, right? And that's mainly what we're selling. We're selling workouts and nutrition plans, but those are cheap or free. And what people want is that change. They want to change or transform. So in the case of an adult, if we peel back the layers of the onion, it's not even about the workouts and nutrition. It's not even about the weight on the scale. It's about how it shows up in their daily lives. At some point, they have low self-esteem. They're just like, man, I just feel uncomfortable in my own skin. I don't feel like myself anymore. For men, a lot of it is just like, I kind of feel like a failure. I'm just gross. I'm out of shape. I'm not comfortable where I'm at. I feel like life is passing me by, right? If you're working with an athlete, it is like, cool, I'm pretty good now, but I want to play in college, right? So it's different for everybody, but you got to figure out where they're at, where they want to go. And then your high ticket mentorship is the bridge to do that, your high ticket program. So it's just a little bit different. You're doing the same things, but you're talking about it differently. You're solving a bigger problem. And so you need to get to that. And that's where like people get a little confused. They're like, man, I just don't know how to sell something that is that high priced. Mm-hmm. And I worry about it. And just understand where they're at. They might have stepped on the scale that morning and then just like, oh my God, I broke over 200 pounds. I feel so bad about myself. And what do they do then? They'll either click on whatever content they've been following with you and put in an inquiry, or they'll call up the nearby gym and they're just going to ask, how much is it? They don't know what they need. It's your job to figure that out. So using the analogy of an onion, you need to get to what I call the bleeding neck issue, the real reason. They might say it's losing 10 pounds, but you can use a framework. TED, tell me more about that. Describe that to me, right? Explain that to me. And dig a little bit deeper, peel back the layers of the onion. And it's not just the 10 pounds, it's the fact that, hey, I feel just really uncomfortable. And as you dive further and you realize this has been a problem for 7, 9, 10, 15 years, there's a lot of pain there. Man, I feel like a stranger in my own body. I don't even recognize myself anymore. Now you can get somewhere. Now you can connect with them. And for an athlete, yeah, you might be talking to them, hey, I want to get stronger, faster, increase endurance. Why? Well, I really want to become a much better athlete. Why? Well, so I can earn that playing time, a spot on the varsity team, get on the college team, earn a scholarship, whatever it is. That's the bigger problem. So that TED framework is, tell me more about that. Explain that to me. Describe that more to me in detail. And you can open that up. And if you find that bleeding neck issue, you're solving the bigger problem. And that's where your programs are worth $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 and up. And so I have a picture on the screen of Shane. He worked for me. He's not a natural salesman. He's very much an introvert. He is very much an introvert, plays old school computer RPG, computer games all the time. He's not somebody you would hire for sales, but he did an amazing job. You find the bleeding neck issue, the real reason that they're on the phone with you or in person with you. And that's it. It's game over. And so there's a way that you can kind of tee up high ticket sales even before you have your consultation. I like doing a discovery call, 5 to 10 minutes before, where I start understanding, hey, what's the main reason that we're on this call today? What's not working for you with your health and fitness? You know, is it the workouts? Is it nutrition? Is it accountability? Is it motivation? It's a little bit of everything. And a lot of times they might be thinking workouts, but they're just like, yeah, well, I haven't worked out in 6 months, but man, it's everything's been all over the place. My nutrition's all over the place, you know, and you start getting to it and you can peel back the layers. And now you can do, if your intake process is different and you just do like a lead form, you can do this through some emails and text messages. But at the end of the day, after just 5 to 10 minutes of work, you can figure out where they're going. This is a real life example of somebody that I had a probably 7-8 minute phone call with. It didn't get deep. But what I did is I sold the whys. I gave homework. Hey, before we meet for our consultation, I want you to really write down the 3 to 5 reasons why you really want to make a change, why it's really important for you. And not just on the surface, so I look better, so I feel better, so I'm stronger, whatever, but like, how does it show up in your daily life every day, right? And so she sent back this huge text message, and she talks about like she wants her confidence back. She's embarrassed to leave the house. She feels ashamed that she's gotten to be this size. She starts talking about how she feels she's a bad example for her kids. Look at this energy. Her words: I'm constantly drained, perpetually exhausted, constant obsession over how I look and feel right now. I feel like all I think about all day, every day is how awful I feel, how my body feels heavy and gross, tired, embarrassed. I didn't get this on the phone call, but because I pitched the whys, she came with this. Now, if you walked into a consultation with this information in front of you, can you see how that would be a lot easier to close?
Yeah, for sure.
And can you see how this problem worth $3,000 to solve that she's laying out here? Hell yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's it. It's right. Because when you do your consultation, they'll give you the cheat sheet to it if you can pull it out. And then, you know, if you can just state the pain that they're in, right? And the frustration that they felt, and paint the picture of where they're going. Can you imagine how you don't feel that way? How you feel like you did 9 years ago before you had 3 kids and stopped making yourself a priority? You know, how good is that going to feel? And they should be like, wow, you kind of know me better than I know myself. And when you kind of do a monster recap like that, your solution, your program is the bridge to that, to get them from where they're at now, from their hell to their heaven. And man, when you get good at this and you have confidence, you have certainty and conviction, you're going to do really well. And I like to liken it to, like, think of yourself like a surgeon, like the world's best heart surgeon, right? You have confidence, you have certainty, and listen, if you want this heart surgery, the price is the price, right? So when you really lock this down, you're going to be indestructible and you're going to elevate. You're going to be like Tim Grover. And when somebody comes to you, you're going to act like you're Tim Grover. Like, yeah, I work with Michael Jordan. I work with Kobe Bryant. I work with the best. And people will buy this. People will buy this. But that opens up another problem, is like, I don't know how to fulfill on high ticket too, because what happens is when I teach people how to do this, they make their first sale, they're like, oh my God, I have like superpowers. I can't believe that happened. Followed immediately to be like, Scott, oh, crap, what do I do? Right? Like I have to
Yeah, you're like on the other end of the conversations that I'm having. I have the here's how you do it, and then they're like, well, how much should I charge, and how do I get more clients?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh my God, what do I do now? And I'm scared because I need to deliver that value. Here's what you need to know is that the people who pay attention. They will get better results and follow your stuff way more. The fact that they have a lot of skin in the game. I mean, if you're charging 150, $200 a month, they're like, all right, sure, I'll give it a shot. But if you're charging $3,000, $5,000, they're like, you have my full undivided attention. I am ready to do this. Let's go. And so what you'll find is that people who pay more are going to be your easiest clients. And that's the cool thing. Now,
And
go ahead and ask questions.
small detail question here. You charge that up front, or is that like spread out over the 3 months or
Good
4
question.
months?
Good question. And there's different ways. So you can, if people are like, hey, I absolutely want to do this, but man, that's a lot of money. One thing that you can do is like, hey, totally get it. Totally agree. It's definitely a significant investment. What if I could split this into a few payments that you're able to get started, make it a lot easier to do this? Would that be easier for you? Great. And then you do it, right? That's also where the mid-ticket comes in. And I'll get into that in a little bit too. I believe I've got some slides on exactly how to transition to a mid or a low ticket, because that's a beautiful thing when you're able to do it, because some people won't be able to afford this. That's okay. That's why you have your other offers, right?
So is it almost sounds like you're intentionally putting that shock factor dollar amount on the table to give it the gravity and the weight that shift the entire perception of the value it is that you're offering. You're intentionally making it look like a scary number.
100% right.
The total opposite of everything. I think intuitively you're like, well, like I even see people that are charging the $300 a month. They'll describe it as the per day or the per session cost because they want to make the number look smaller.
Yes.
You're like flipping that entirely on its head, it seems like.
Exactly. Because do all your people have to be high ticket? No. But the value, like if you run into affordability, that's okay. Like you've anchored high. So maybe you are charging $300-$400 a month, but you've just put out a $10,000 program out there, right? That the $300-$400 a month might be more than they've been wanting to spend when they came in, but you've reframed that because of your price anchor. You're exactly right. And I touched on that in a little bit. Like you nailed it right on the head. It establishes you as the expert and the authority. And guess what? Some people are going to want that. But if that's totally not realistic for them, hey, no worries. I have this other program that's 80 to 90% of this one, but that program is only Y dollars. And they're like, all right, let's do that then. And they're relieved. And they're paying more than you would have gotten before or more than they were willing to spend when they first hopped on. The value of a price anchor is huge. And so it's not like I'm not telling anybody, hey, go big or go home. You're either going to put up a massive sale or a donut on that consult. It doesn't have to be that way. In fact, when you're doing this right and you're stepping down the right way, you should get way more for each average client. Your average client value is going to go way up, but your closing percentage should also go way up. Yeah, you picked up on that completely intuitively. And it's exactly how it works. And when fulfilling this, everybody has their own solution. There's more than one way to skin a cat. You've got your unique way if you want to coach, but I'll just real quick kind of summarize how we do it. It's going to be a little bit different for an athlete versus an adult, right? Of course. But the essence of how I do fulfill a high ticket program is really we do an onboarding where we build out their program, a one-on-one onboarding, usually an hour. I give them some homework and everything that you guys have in Turnkey Coach. Like you have your way of doing things in there, but do an onboarding and you're going to build out everything they need. It's not just the workouts, not just the nutrition. You might need to have them doing some daily mobility or cardiovascular work. Just depends on what their goals are, right? And personal habits and routines to make it easy. At the end of the day, most of these people are going to have school or jobs and kids and errands, and your job is just to reduce the friction. And so we do an onboarding where we set things up. Less is more to begin with and add more on later. And weekly we check in, usually 20, 30-minute coaching session, or we call it a mentorship session. And that's what we do in our high ticket, right? And it's really easy. We just look at the data, right? You've got your software to do that. Celebrate a win. Even if they had a crappy week, there's a win in there. Help them realize that, right? And identify, where do they struggle with? Where they struggle? Was it on the nutrition? If it is, have a discussion around that. Maybe it's snacking late at night. Maybe it's, man, I did really well until Thursday when I ran out of food, right? And then I stopped by Wendy's Thursday night and then it all tumbled there. Great. Like, figure out, what can you do that's really easy? What can they do in their lives to make it easier? If it's snacking late at night, find a more reasonable substitute. Or, hey, let's just have you brush your teeth after dinner so you're not tempted. And give them an action item. And just week after week, basically, we're just reducing friction to them being able to do this. Very easy. If you're working with athletes and student athletes, these are really good to have with the parents, like a parent-teacher conference. If the goal is to get them to play on the University of Illinois basketball team, right? You don't need to do it weekly. You can do it probably once a month with the parent, once a month with the coach. But you're going to break down their progress, where they're at, what needs to improve. Less is more, guys. Less is more. I don't check in with these guys every day. Software makes it a lot easier to do that, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with the mentorship, man, don't overthink this. Right?
Operationally, how do you find scaling the 30-minute call? Because my initial reaction is, pinning my schedule down with a bunch of 30-minute calls. It sounds easy, but then you got the no-shows, you got to coordinate the call, you got to reschedule the call, and all of a sudden your calendar's just getting jacked around. Do you find that the 30-minute call is essential, and how do you manage that?
Doesn't necessarily need to be done, because you have, especially with Turnkey Coach, you have a lot of other things that you can do in lieu of that. Right. That being said, I mean, you really do. Your platform is the best for that. It's designed around that. So
yeah, I mean, it's trying to get as close to that kind of interaction. And our clients say that's what they feel like, they're having the conversation without having to get on the call at the same time.
Exactly. But then keep in mind, like, that's what I would use for like mid and low ticket. Right. You just do it all through that. Your high ticket, if you got people paying $1,000 a month.
Yeah. You're getting on a call.
Are you willing to schedule, 5 of those for $5,000 a month? Yeah, you will.
Yes.
Right. So
Right.
that's the beautiful thing, because success for us is not just the money, it's the time, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you on 50 one-on-one calls a week. Are you kidding me? You're going to burn yourself out.
Right. So do you have is there like a ratio of this high to mid to low that you find people settle into? Like, how many of these can one coach kind of sustain?
Yeah, it's and this is where you want to price accordingly, right? So it's really up to you. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can get these calls done in 20 minutes and set up recurring appointments, right? And here's the thing, though. When they're paying for this, they're going to show up.
They show up, yeah.
What happens is, if you have a gym, you always know the group membership people are, some of them don't show up for 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
Because they're paying it's $150 a month, whatever, right? But the higher value people, you have their attention, and they will be, because of that, because they're so much more committed, they're going to do the work. They're going to be your best success stories. And you don't have to chase them down. The people who paid, like Patrick, the G-Wagon client that I've had for a decade, he's the easiest damn person in the world. He complains the least, expects the least, and is happy to pay me that money every month for 10 years. Right? So the people who pay more are actually way easier to work with and fulfilling too. Right?
What do you say to somebody who, I mean, you live in kind of the Scottsdale area, right? So there's
Scottsdale, Phoenix, Glendale, Mesa.
There's the G-Wagon world down there. What if you're living in, fill in the blank, nowhere?
I'll give you a good example.
Don't have the G-Wagon folk.
Ruston, Louisiana. Okay. So Lauren Dervloy owns CrossFit Ruston. She owned it for like 9 years, as of a few years ago when I started working with her on this. I think it was 2020 or 2021, something like that. And Ruston, Louisiana, at that time, we looked up, the median income was like 36 grand. I'm sure with inflation, it's gone up if you looked it up now, right? But at the end of the day, she ran a CrossFit gym. She was an excellent nutrition coach, charging like $99 a month on top of it. And the amount of work involved on those $99 a month clients were nuts and cheap group, and she was burning herself out. This is what caused me to full-time really start helping fitness entrepreneurs with this, because she was crying on her call. She's like, I've tried everything. I've hired every coach and mentor. Like, I can't keep doing this. She had 2 little girls. It's just too much. And the price point was her problem. And she's not in a high income area in Ruston, Louisiana. And we crafted one where it's her online nutrition coaching coupled with group in CrossFit, right? And instead of doing it was like $120 a month plus the 99, she started selling that at $2,000. And I think hers was a 12-week program, if I remember correctly. And then she had a version where she did it one-on-one PT, and that was $4,500. She was scared shitless to say that price. Like, I have the text message. She's just like, I'm sweating, but 2K transformation sold. Wow. We were talking earlier, we call it the butthole pucker. You're in front of this client and you're like, oh my God, this is the perfect thing for them.
Yeah. How much is it?
I'm so nervous about saying $2,000 because I'm used to selling $120 a month memberships.
Yeah. Are they like writing it down on a piece of paper to slide across the table? Or
just say 2K, guys. Just say 2K.
Yeah. Confidently, right? Like you said,
absolutely.
Like this is the solution. Yeah.
And her next 3 were $4,500 ones with her one-on-one version. Her executive. She brought in like 18 grand in that first month from like 5 people-ish, 6 people. I don't remember exactly how many. And then just her whole paradigm changed. And she's not in a wealthy area at all. But if you can connect it to, again, this bleeding neck and solve the real problem that they're in front of you to solve, it's worth it. It's worth it. But yeah, it is scary. And this is the next thing coming up is like, not everybody can afford high ticket. True. That's true. And this is what you were talking about, is that not everybody needs to buy your high ticket. The fact that you're price anchoring high with these offers makes all the other stuff less expensive. So I do like having a drop down from, if they're like, wow, I'd love to do this, but man, I'm a single mom. There's no way I can afford this for my son or for me or whatever it is. And you can't break it into payments that there's just no way. No worries. I've got this program, right? That's 80 to 90% of it, leaving no stone unturned for you to get to your goals, right? We're going to do all of the workouts. We're going to handle your custom nutrition plan, and we're going to give you the accountability and monitor things and fine tune it along the way. And this program is only Y dollars. That could be a $599. That could be a $1,200. It could be a $400 a month. It could be a $300. It really depends on your model and how it all fits together, guys. Mm-hmm. But you have something that might be $3,000, $5,000, but then you've got this, right? And it's $350 a month or something like that, right?
And are these displayed on your webpage, on a landing page, or is it all direct to the disco call?
Good question. This is when we're doing a consultation, and we're going to talk about this. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it over, you don't even need a price sheet, by the way. But if you're in person, you probably have one, right? You might have a slide on something like that too. So I would separate where you've got your high ticket program, like your regular one that you sell, and your executive one. Your price anchor and your price anchor, right? Mm-hmm. That's on one page. You have your mid ticket on a second page. Mm. And then finally, you might have a low ticket where you're just going to handle their programming. That's it. There's no feedback and all that kind of stuff, right? And
but
that's
they're
on
not
a third
shown
page.
Like side by like. I think
definitely
like
not.
Barbell Logic, our page right now, it's like we have 3 tiers, but they're shown right next to each other, and the checkout options are for them to make.
And that's okay. That's okay for like software that works well for and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But man, I tell you what, with gyms, I hate seeing a lot of people have 7, 8, 9 different offers. Mm-hmm. You have your different things, what they come with, and how many times a week. It's really confusing. And you're taking somebody from an emotional state where like, man, this big problem that I have that I want to solve, we're taking that and then we're showing them this grid of offers, and they stop listening to you. They stop feeling what they're feeling, and they just go into logic analytical mode and like, well, I'm okay with that. I think I can do that myself. So maybe just go, right? We don't want that.
This reminds me of a marketing slide I saw the other day called the Super Mario marketing, where you've got little Mario, you've got the superpower flower, and then you got Fireball Mario
Yeah.
after it, Big Mario. I think it was called Big Mario marketing. And most people try to sell the flower, but
Hmm.
nobody wants the flower. They want to be Big Mario. They want to be like, you need to
Yeah.
be selling the Big Mario throwing fireballs
I
and the
love that analogy.
transformation from little Mario to Big Mario, but putting up the grid of flowers and, you can get the, different options. Just like you said, it puts you in a different part of your brain even. A lot of this seems
Absolutely.
like psychology that you're kind of navigating how people think and feel as they're looking at and thinking about the different options.
You're exactly right. And that's the art of coaching. And that's something I want to stress. This isn't a hard, I'm not a hard sale guy, guys. I am not. In fact, I don't like, I'll never do it. That's not me. I don't back people into a corner.
Mm,
And I can't stand that. I don't like it when it's done to me.
hmm
Think of it not as selling. Think of it as coaching somebody into taking action.
hmm
That's what it is. I mean, how many times, like, if you learn some of this stuff before, guys, and especially like, I can't, I only have a limited time here, so I can't get too much into the sales, right? I couldn't teach you all the good stuff, but like, how much is it painful when you see that person who's on their way to diabetes and an early death, and they don't start with you? It's like you're gonna die 15 years premature. Like, this is the most heartbreaking thing. It's you have three, coexisting morbidities, and you're not willing to even start. Like, that's heartbreaking. And so your value as a coach, like, you need to coach people into taking action. So don't think of it like sales is a bad thing. Like, think of it as coaching.
hmm
Your job as a coach, like, look at all the greatest sports films that we've watched. It's always the rousing speeches that get the players, right, to go all in on the court or in practice, right? That's the same thing you're doing. Elevate your game. That's part of the game. You are a coach. Get really good at coaching.
mm
That's what sales is. You can't do it for them. You can't work out for them. You can't make their nutritional choices for them. You've got to lead them. And that's exactly what this is.
It's awesome.
And it's not a logical thing.
Right,
It is
right.
more emotional based. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And, another example of a CrossFit who's done well in this. So, like, Matt Chenard did this, I helped him do this inside of his CrossFit, right? And him and his GM did a lot of selling. They did like 30 grand in new business in their first month. But if you look on the right-hand side of this, he built his online coaching platform on top of this. It was a little bit different. It was geared towards men and lifestyle, and it had a different purpose behind it, right? But you can see he sold his at $4,900 for a 12-week program, right? And he's got a third one that just hit, right? And that's a lot of money. It's almost 15 grand he brought in from 3 people online, which is pretty amazing. But some people are going to want to do this, and this is good for online too. Some people want to do the program, but like, they can't do the full thing. If you have a Stripe, like, you can connect Klarna or Affirm on there, and that client can finance it over a period of like 12 to 18 months too. So that's another way to do it. And like, Latasha is a great example, another gym owner who did her online thing, Metabo Method. Now, the awkward thing is you want to retain these people too.
hmm
So she was selling like 3-month programs, but they were financing it over like 12. And by the way, you get paid up front on that, which is awesome. But there's an awkward thing where they want to keep going and you want to keep them going, but they're still making payments on the other stuff. So I advise her, I'm like, listen, we need to change the way you do things, where we need your high, mid, and lows. Actually, because she was only high ticket on this. We're only going to do a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month. That's how we're going to change yours. And she did it at $3 grand for the 3-month, $5 grand for the 6-month, and it was $8 grand for the 12-month. Okay. And then that way you're working with them for a longer period of time, getting paid all up front. But we needed to do that for her because a lot of her clients did need to finance it through Affirm or Klarna. So you can easily do something like that. And she did very, very, very well with this. And so that's a really cool thing. But there's a lot of different ways you can structure your offers and a lot of different ways you drop it down. But the point is yeah, you should increase your closing percentage while also getting high and mid ticket sales and not just your commodity based low ticket offers. Main things that you just have to do is like build out your offers, learn how to get really good at selling them, learn how to fulfill it, which ties into renewals. You can renew high ticket offers to the point where, yes, they're going to be paying you $500 to $1,000 a month and committing to a year when you handle that conversation right. And I'm trying to get you guys to challenge a lot of your thinking on here too, right? Because man, do the advanced math on it. If you are a race to the bottom, you're always going to be struggling. I did that for years, and you're just like, if I just get to X amount of clients, I'll be good. And that's very elusive. And or you're spending a lot of time servicing and trying to hold on to those people. And I did that for years. So my dream for you is not to have to service all those people and build a huge 50,000, 100,000, K following on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're doing. My dream for you is to kind of get out of that hamster wheel and have those low ticket clients, but also have high and mid ticket clients. So you can break out of that hamster wheel. And at some point, it's going to take work, but you're able to get to work because you want to, not because you have to. And you don't always have that pressure of meeting the bills every month, every quarter, every year. So awesome. That's the gist of everything I kind of wanted to share. I mean, you're right. I could have gone for 3 hours.
As I anticipated, we're 45 minutes in, and I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of questions that I want to ask and things I'm sure that you could help with. But I think as we were talking about before, you've talked about key principles that are universal. If people want to learn more about how to refine it or tailor it to their situation, what's the best way people can work with you or hear more about this approach?
I got 2 things for you and compliments of Turnkey Coach. But there's a couple different things that you can do. So, and thank you for this. So I've got in Scottsdale, Arizona on February 12th and 13th, I actually, for Turnkey Coaches, thanks to you guys, we're giving out 2 free tickets for anybody who wants them. Okay, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Those will sell at they're at early bird pricing right now at $199, but you can get them for free for anybody that's on this or whether you're watching the recording. And then also because this just I get inundated with questions usually after I kind of teach them the stuff on like how should I do it with my business, how should I fine tune it. Everybody watching this, I'm going to give you the option to do a coaching call with me, and it's compliments of Turnkey. It's costs you nothing. It's your hour to spend. And so we can talk about your high ticket offers. If you want to go into marketing or acquisition, it's your call. So I'm going to let you choose to spend it how you want to spend it, but it's completely free for you. And I will also get you your 2 free early bird tickets and this QR code here. And I'm sure on the podcast, you'll have a link to it. Yep. You can just schedule it. And when you schedule it, all you have to do is in the bottom when it says, what would you like to talk about on this call? Put how you want to spend your hour with me and how I can help you in your business. But just write gift in there. And I will know that I'm going to get you the 2 early bird tickets for free. And you can come out here and spend 2 full days with me doing this kind of stuff.
Outstanding. February, that was 12th and 13th, you said?
Yep, February 12th and 13th, Scottsdale, Arizona. Great time to get out of the winter.
Yes, definitely. I'm like, I might need to come down there.
And yes, I would love it if you could come too.
I'm up in Washington. That time of year is just brutal to get through. So
yeah. The late winter is brutal. Me being from Illinois, I get it.
Oh yeah, jeez. Awesome, man. That is very generous. So much appreciate, and even this hour of time has been incredible. I feel like I've got a million more questions, but I want to respect your time and let people get back to their day as well. But thank you so much, Scott, for coming on board. It's definitely got me thinking how I think we need to probably revisit some things on our business. Barbell Logic, like I said, is got the 3-tiered pricing, but just a couple of psychological 180s that you're talking about there are super powerful, and it's scary, which I have found that when there's parts of my life or things that I'm doing that feel a little uncomfortable like that, like it almost sounds too good to be true, and I'm scared to try it. Those are almost
Yeah.
always the best things to do. That makes
Absolutely.
sense.
I was scared to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no different. And I had a lot of doubts and I was really scared to do it. But you know what? I learned the craft and then I tried it and,
Hmm.
it changed. And some people are really successful with it and some people are moderately successful with it. But there's not many people who bonk out on it. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess
Right.
maybe that would be one last question I wanted to ask. There's almost an imposter syndrome element to it. Like, do you find that ultimately, even though we don't sell the product, does it ultimately come down to having a good product that obviously delivers results to determine whether people are successful or not?
Yeah. And imposter syndrome is very real. It's very
Hmm.
real. And you should be experiencing it. That's the
Hmm.
only way you're going to elevate your game,
Mm.
right? If you look at Michael Jordan's trainer, right, and what he started training people at and his rates, and as he gained more confidence and all that, I mean, I don't know what his rates are, but
Yeah.
I can't, I mean, I'm sure they're absolutely absurd.
Right.
Where did he start? He actually started training Michael Jordan for free,
Hmm.
believe it or not, for quite a while,
Hmm.
for quite a while, until Michael Jordan said, "Hey, I actually haven't paid you." But he was doing it for free, living at his mom's house. So, because he couldn't afford bills.
Hmm.
Everyone's going to have imposter syndrome. If you want to be really good at your craft and you want to be an amazing coach, you have to elevate your game and you have to do it. But the cool thing is the confidence will build and you will arrive.
Hmm.
There's only one way you can grow, and it's by getting uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? And for those of you who are really scared to offer that, you don't need to go immediately to $3,000, $5,000, guys.
All right.
You can start at 12. We do that all the time with people who aren't confident. It's like, okay, just let's start you here. And when you get a couple people across, and then you're really like they're seeing the value, and they're some of your best clients, you'll get more confident, and then you can raise your prices from there. So you don't
Yeah.
have to go from 0 to 60, right?
What I love about the mental, what it forces you to do is the mindset shift, and for me at least, the immediate thought that I have is I need to figure out how am I going to actually deliver that a value that justifies that. Instead
Yeah.
of the race to the bottom, the other problem is now you're also in a downward spiral of how little value can I provide, which is like almost the
Yes.
opposite of what you want to do if you're trying to grow as a coach. Like, challenge yourself to come up with a $5,000 offer. That might include I need to go get some different skills, or like you said, I need to figure out how to partner with other coaches so that I can add that service on and justify the price tag. It just puts you in a totally different frame of mind to figure
Yeah.
out how to deliver more value, which we talked about here early on. One of the first episodes I did was the cost price value equation of a business, and how we look at building trust as a mechanism of driving value up,
Hmm.
and rather than the race to the bottom, which is how little price can I charge, which can only, I mean, you, especially if your time is one of the key components of the product, like all you're doing is squeezing your profit,
Yep.
versus what you're suggesting is challenge yourself to push the price up, which forces you to drive the value up in order to rationalize the price. Forces you into a growth mindset, because you might not have enough of an offer initially.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And it's going to push you to become better. So
Hmm.
just ask yourself, if I were to charge this,
Right.
right, how would I make it worth that?
Right.
Right. But we overthink it. And at the art of it is like, can Michael Jordan's trainer, Tim Grover, can he give better workouts than almost everybody listening to this? No. He's not that technical of a guy, guys.
Hmm.
He leveled up his skills as he went along in a lot of
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
ways. But no, I bet you when the first few years he was training NBA athletes, I bet almost everybody on this call is more educated, more qualified than he was in his first several years.
Hmm.
But what he did have is he pushed the growth mindset. He did level up his skills, right? And he became a great coach. A lot of what he does is nothing to do with the workouts. It's confidence. It's now when an NBA player has a playoff game and they just feel off, they will literally fly out to him to have him spend an hour and get their head on straight. There's nothing physical about it. There's nothing physical about it. There's nothing magic about the workouts, guys. Right? So it's a lot of it is in your head. And how this is what I'm talking about, like being a really good coach, which is a mental game. That's the strongest skill set that you can develop. The workouts and nutrition, guys, there's only so much that can be done.
Yeah.
And it's not about that. It's about the thing in between your client's two ears. So if there's one skill that you can really level up, it is coaching, and it is sales, it's motivation, it's influence, bar none.
Love it. I think that's a great ending point. Thank you again, Scott. I really appreciate it. We will definitely include the link to the event and the QR code in our bio. And also, if you are interested in scheduling a disco call where we can talk about how to increase your value and the offer that you can provide using Turnkey Coach, we also have a free discovery call at turnkey.coach/BOC call. turnkey.coach/BOCCALL. And you can set up some time where I'll get to practice my skills of listening and Ted to understand your pain points and how we can turn you into a giant fireball throwing Mario with Turnkey Coach.
Love it.
So thank you all again, and we'll see you next week on the Business of Coaching.